Hey everyone, I'm Clue, and we're on to the shadow section of spoiler cards, or spoilers, or just cards, for Dusk Till Dawn. So, interestingly, there's still no card gallery, right? We're in the pre-release season, so lots of people are having the opportunity to open and chase cards and find cards, so it's interesting that they still haven't opened that up. But yeah, the shadow section, I do have a big gripe that I want to go through first, okay? So, Levia, right, bolted. Along with all the tokens which we touched on last night, they are absolutely pointless in this set, right? If this table is fully complete, which at this point I'm fully expecting it kind of is, well, the fact that, again, Levia, both versions, Bolton, both versions, and all the tokens are just listed as regular printings is kind of ridiculous at this point, right? Where the fourth supplemental set in, you know, we have this understanding that it's not made for drafting. We don't need these cards, especially when they are just common variants, right? If they were Rainbow Foil, if they were Cold Foil, then yes, it would be a bit more acceptable to chase these cards. But as a just common pack filler, we don't need more versions of Levia. Again, the set isn't draftable, so why do I need to have access to the majority of tokens? Again, not the tokens that are first introduced in this set, but all the other tokens that do have some relevance, because we're seeing Rune Chant again, we're seeing Spectral Shield again, but Levia, Bolton. In Outsiders, we got an alternative version to Arachne, right? That sort of helped things along. Why couldn't they do that? Why couldn't we get an alternative version for Levia and Bolton, right? A Blitz version, a Young Hero version, that tested some sort of new mechanic to, test the waters. Blitz has shown itself to be more flexible, more fun. So it would have been a far better use of these slots. And we could have also had, more generics, more class cards if they cut out all of these filler cards. It seems really weird to me that the majority of this set seems like it is made for drafting, but it isn't a draftable set because there are no tokens, and again, the packs are smaller than the 15 cards. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it is a bit annoying looking through a lot of the common slots, a lot of, again, these real filler cards, that the low end of Dusk Till Dawn is really bad, in all honesty. But the high end is so good, right? And it's again, that love-hate relationship where I want to open Dusk Till Dawn, I want to find all these high-end cards, but I know all these cards just going in a box, and most likely just going into a bin, because I don't need, right, even if I had the option to drop all my cards to an LGS, which is something I want to look into in the future, because I have a lot of bulk. The hero cards, they're not needed, right? For you to actually construct a Levia deck, the majority of cards you need are from Monarch. If you're going to open Monarch, chances are you're going to find a Levia, right, to use in your deck. You don't need this version of Levia. It should not be in this set. Bolton should not be in this set. The cards for them, fine. The new tokens, fine. Everything else should have been cut and should have been used as card slots for other cards, right? We could have had a lot more generic cards built around Shadow and Light, right? Give a lot of the other heroes interactions against Shadow and Light. That would have been fantastic. Instead, we just see the dichotomy of Shadow cards versus Light cards and Light cards versus Shadow cards, right? Despite Oldhim showing up, Levia showing up, and all these other characters in the lore, we don't really have any generics that go directly against, or, sort of deck tech against Light and Shadow heroes. And it just seems a poor set design, in all honesty. Again, the top end of the set, designed wonderfully. Bottom end, just seems like filler for the sake of filler. Like, they didn't have enough time to fully map out the set. Like, it was going to be draftable, which is something I sort of touched on with Riddlerman. He's brought that up quite a bit. And, yeah, it's just kind of annoying to see, to be honest. Anyway, into the cards, which, before we actually get to them, we should probably talk about Visette, right? So the difference between Visette and Chain. So if we look at Chain's ability. So once per turn action, create a Soul Shackle token, right here. Your next Rune Blade or Shadow action this turn gains go again, and then go again. Okay, so you have a sort of filler, right? You can allow some of your game pieces, set pieces, to actually enable other play. And then you have Soul Shackle, which is at the beginning of your action phase, banish the top card of your deck. Right, so technically, with all of the play from your banish zone mechanics and all that, it's a +1 to your hand, almost. In comparison, Visette. At the start of your turn, banish a card from your hand. So this is the big difference. If you do, create a Rune Chant token. Whenever you play a Shadow non-attack action card, you may pay life. If you do, the next Rune Chant effect that would deal damage this turn can't be prevented. Right, so this little bottom tag is great. The top is a complete opposite way to Chain, right? So Chain was effectively a +1, and you're using the card from your deck. This is a -1 to your hand to still allow you to, again, make use of the Banish Zone mechanics. So overall, it is significantly weaker compared to Chain, in my honest opinion, and there should have been more ways to create Soul Shackle. I understand that they want to sort of balance around this mechanic, but there are significantly easier ways to do it than just cut the content. You know, in the terms of, like, the Bloodsheath Skelter, necessary because it was power creep that they're trying to avoid, but you could have just -1 from Vizet's intellect, right? And still had the similar mechanic, and then still tacked on the Rune Chant to make up for that -1. Instead, we have a weaker ability that is -1 to your hand size. The only sort of advantage is you get to pick which card is banished versus Chains, where you don't necessarily know what the top card of your deck is going to be. So altogether, it's similar to Chain, right? Gimmicky. The Rune Chant is a lot more powerful, which is good. It puts it more in line with Vizarian generating and popping Rune Chants, which is good. Plus then the pay life to make sure that your damage can't be prevented seems pretty strong. So the bottom half of the ability, great. Top half, I think they could have worked around Soul Shackles and Chain's original effect a little bit better than just a -1 with the creation of a Rune Chant to sort of balance it out. Okay, on to the cards. We'll go back to Brutes and we'll start from there. So we've got Hellhammer. So once per turn, pay 2. When the combat chain closes, if this attacked, banish it. So yeah, that doesn't seem like a fantastic weapon, right? Because you get one swing out of it and then it's banished. So in terms of card economy, there's easier ways to accomplish this sort of feat than jumping through the hoop of being able to utilize it from your banish zone, which I don't know if you can, right? I know in terms of actions and non-attack actions, but a weapon is kind of unique in that extent. And then we have the Spoiled Skull, which could have actually fed into it quite nicely, right? So banish this, target 3 action cards with different names in your banish zone. If this was any cards, I think that would have been a lot better. And choose one at random. You may play it this turn. So essentially you can utilize one of the cards in your banish zone. Now, I'm curious about this because it says target 3 action cards. So if you can't usually fulfill this, then the next portion doesn't really trigger, right? So if you don't have 3 action cards, you can't utilize this. And altogether, it is also interesting to me that they've tacked on a Shadow Brute helmet in the same set that they're offering a Legendary Brute helmet, right? So they're sort of cannibalizing each other's interests and, you know, making it more in line that the Legendary is just for Reiner versus the Spoiled Skull, which is for Levia. Diabolic Offering. If a card with 6 or more damage has been put into your banish zone this turn, Diabolic's Offering, damage and defense are 6. Otherwise, they are 0, right? So as long as you have a 6 card in your banish zone, you can now play a 6 for 1 or block for 6, which seems fairly strong, right? Because it's not too hard to accomplish that feat. Shaden Death Hydra. When this attack, it deals X damage to you, where X is 13 minus the number of cards with Blood Debt in your banish zone. Ooh, so super high powerful, but you know, you really need to set up for it. Because again, say you're playing this in Blitz, right? It effectively sets you up for a KO by your opponent in the next turn. In Classic Constructed, it's a little bit more leeway. You can use it, you know, near the start of the game to try and deal some heavy damage, put some cards in your banish zone, try to make up for whatever your opponent would be potentially able to block for, or use it to, you know, sort of eat through your opponent's armor or something like that. It is a high priority card, but it has a equally, you know, costly downside to it, which is good. Again, the Majestics, the Legendaries, all the top end cards of the set seem great. It's just the bottom end is really missing for me when it comes to Dusk Till Dawn. And I would have just had a all-around better experience if they cut a lot of the commons and the rares, right? Still keep in some, but make the booster packs, you know, feel a little bit weightier in terms of, well, I'm just going to take this chunk of cards from the side and then we'll look through the good stuff. Slithering Shadowpede. If this was banished from your hand this turn, you may play it from your banish zone. So obviously a perfect card that you want to set up with, has Blood Debt, so it triggers all the other effects, and you can play it from your banish zone without jumping through any other hoops. There's an additional cost to play this. Banish a random card from your hand. If a card with 6 or more is banished this way, you may play it from your banish zone, right? So that's one of those setup cards I was talking about, and of course there's some in Monarch. Blood Dripping Frenzy. Well, actually, so this is a defense reaction, right? So you may play it your next action phase. So it sticks around, which is good, right? So you defend with this, and then you essentially have another card, or you've already accomplished a lot of the setup steps for some of your cards. Blood Dripping Frenzy. As an additional cost to play this, banish your hand. So your whole hand. Interesting. Draw a card for each card with Blood Debt banished this way. Your Brute and Shadow attacks gain plus X this turn, where X is the number of cards with 6 or more banished this way. Interesting. As long as you have ways to play cards, right, this could really set up for the Shadowed Death Hydra, right? So use it to banish. You've maybe used expendable limbs to put Shadowed Death Hydra in your zone, right? So you can play it the next turn, and then this to dump the rest of your hand. You gain a bit of extra, you reduce the amount of damage it's doing to you. Could be a really good combo right there. Okay, Ram Rider. There's an additional cost to play this. Banish a random card from your hand. If it's 6 or more, then it gains Go Again. Right, just a filler card, really. Wall Breaker. If you banish a card with 6 or more, this gains Overpower. Bit better, right, because we're seeing Overpower. But mostly, rares are kind of filler. Okay, as an additional cost to play this, banish a random card from your hand. Your next Brute or Shadow attack this turn gains +5. Again, lots of good setup for the Hydra, right, to really try to accomplish Levia having this finisher. I mean, between Shadowed Scream and Shadowed Death Hydra, right, you could easily get this pretty high. If you had 2 of these, right, if you didn't have the random, or if you had a way to get the Shadowed Death Hydra in your banish zone already, through expendable limbs or something, you could set up a real strong combo in Blitz. So it seems really good setup, right? 2 of these, plus a Shadowed Death Hydra, and you KO your opponent. You don't really have to worry about minusing the Blood Debt. Okay, it's doing, 23? So if you had 3 of them, yeah, if you could set that up perfectly every time, super strong. Battlefield Breaker, right, if you banish a card with 6 or more this turn, it gains +1. So it's 3 for 8, which seems pretty good for me. Again, I don't know the economy too great, and I'm going to just discount a lot of the common cards, because, to be honest, I don't think they have a place in this set. I think, again, using the slots for rares, if they cut out the common slots, right, let me just throw this out. In supplemental sets, if you just cut out the common slots, increase the rare pool to 2 or 3, then we could have a better fleshed out set, right? We could have rares for all the different cards. Because, again, when it comes to deck construction, yes, a lot of commons see play, a lot of rares see play, and then Majestics are sort of the niche cards depending on what you're playing. So, inserting more cards in the rare slot, right, and discounting the common slot could work, rather than just having, all these common cards that need to be balanced around and being pack fillers. Where we're up to, Shade and Swing. As an additional cost to play, banish a random card from your hand, 1 for 7. Tribute to the Demolish. As an additional cost, banish. We've gone through it, it's a 2 for 8, right? And then decrease, yeah, so the usual red, yellow, blue stuff. Tribute to Legion's Doom. None of these are really eventful, they're all just, banish card. They're enablers, essentially, for Brute. And then you can just go with the more cost-effective. They're all different damages, right? I mean, Tribute to the Doom and Tribute to Demolish are identical. Just the cost and the base damage is different. Okay, Visette. Flail of Agony, your go-to weapon, which is a Visette specialization, meaning it is usable by Cheyenne, which is probably the big upside, because now you have a cool weapon to use. You can generate Runechant tokens through using life. It doesn't have Go Again, right, so it's definitely something you use as a finisher. Attack, when this hits, and it has to land as well, so that's the other thing. It doesn't deal Arcane. Right, if it was 1 to ping and generate a Runechant token, pretty broken. Okay, Grimroar of the Haunt. Create an Elegance token, Arcane Barrier, Blood Debt, combo it with your Flail of Agony. Again, there's not too many great one-handed rune blade weapons, right? And overall, would this see play? I mean, with Rune Gates, I guess it's a bit better of an enabler, but I think some of the other weapons are still better overall for Runeblade from my perspective. Widespread Annihilation. Where's the other Levia? Was it down further? It must be a shadow-only card. It's interesting that's not in the Shadow Brood. Okay, Widespread Annihilation, Rune Gate. So all the Rune Gate tags are just, if you control Runechants equal to or greater than the cost, you may play it from your banish zone without paying its cost. Okay, so again, if we had the same enabler as Chain, would be a little bit better. It's still not horrible in Visette, but I do think both Visette and Prism have taken quite a beating in terms of their reprinting. So when the combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes a card from their hand. So that's also pretty decent disruption. Widespread Destruction. Rune Gate again. When the combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life banishes a card from their arsenal. Okay, so now we have a different CNC, right? Because the other upside for this is it doesn't have to have hit. Yeah, so it's just this turn. So if you've managed to hit your opponent, just pop a rune chant token essentially with your inbuilt effect, you have a better CNC because it doesn't have to land. So that's actually a really good card. Widespread Ruin. When this combat chain closes, same effect, banish the top card of your deck. So in terms of versatility and power, obviously Destruction is the best, then I'd say Annihilation and then Ruin, because actual on-turn disruption is a bit better than just deck disruption. Funeral Moon. You may play this from your banish zone. If your hero's lost life this turn, you may play this as if it were instant to create a rune chant token. So, plays right into the Flail of Agony. Right, good combo. Requiem of the Damned. You may play this from your banish zone. If your hero has lost life this turn, you may play it as though it was instant to create an Eloquence token. Is Eloquence that great? Need to really sink in on what the effect is. You may play non-attack action cards, destroy this, and that card... Yeah, okay. So, it's just another hurdle to essentially accomplish what Chain could do inbuilt. Right. So they've just added more steps when it comes to Vizet. Okay. Oblivion, Legendary Specialization. Play this only if you have exactly 6. Create Nazeth, the Soul Harrower. I assume that's on the flip side? Or is it a... Because it's not a token in this set. It's probably down further, right? Yes, there we are. Okay, so once per turn action, attack. When it hits a hero, banish a card from their soul. If a light card is banished this way, gain 1. So I'm curious. Your soul is your arsenal for light heroes, right? So in this case, because it doesn't state arsenal, this has no use whatsoever on other matchups, right? It's just a 0 attack for 6, which is still decent, right? Just end off your turn with a free attack, gives your opponent something else to hit. But yeah, just the matchup. I mean, if it was just arsenal, that would be quite strong, right? That's a generatable repeat CNC. I mean, cards like that to compete with Command & Conquer, would be decent. The exactly 6 is probably the hurdle, right? To get exactly 6. Deathly Delight. Well, actually, there's a few cards that generate X rune chants, isn't there, or something like that? Actually, it wouldn't be that hard, I don't think. Okay, another Rune Gate when it closes, so the same ongoing effect seems like a big deal for Vizet, or for the new Shadow Runeblade cards. Equal to blah 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 number of heroes who have lost this turn. When combat chain closes, gain life. No, sorry, I was just glossing over it. I just saw the little text. So when the combat chain closes, gain life equal to the number of heroes who have lost life this turn. Right, so it's number of heroes, not the amount of life lost. So definitely excels in the group formats. Other than that, it's probably redundant in play, right? Because it's just a +1. I mean, 2 for 4, +1. But it doesn't have the has to hit effect either, and you can obviously minus the cost. It might be decent. Rune Gate again. Create rune chant tokens equal to the number of heroes who have lost. So again, it's just create 1 rune chant tokens in most circumstances, unless you're playing group play. Develop in Darkness, create a rune chant token. The next attack action card with Rune Gate gains +3. Seems good. Rift Skelter, just another filler card, right? You don't need Eloquence to chain it, because it has go again. Yeah. Rift Skelter, 3, 4, go again. Again, the commons and the rares, there's not a big talking point to them, so I will just look at them. They're pretty enough. I like the more necromantic theme, especially against like these big entities. Rune Gate and Blood Debt, 2 for 6. Putrid Stirrings, you may play this from your banish zone. Next attack action card with Rune Gate. This turn gains +5. That seems good. Again, not as much setup as obviously the Levia, the Hydra. Again, the Hydra seems like it's definitely going to define an archetype deck for Levia. Okay, so here's the big one. Levia Redeemed. Legendary Levia Specialization. Action. Turn all cards in your banished zone face down. Transform into Levia, the Reclaimed. Activate this ability only while this is in your inventory. While in your inventory. Ah, okay. So this is the first sort of true extra deck card, right? Where it has a ongoing trigger. So you don't have to play a card to bring it into play. You just have to meet its effects, and you can play it whenever. That seems pretty strong. Though I assume you go down to the life, right? Because it's a hero, so it replaces your hero or something like that. Inventory, you have 13 or more cards with Blood Debt in your banish zone. And then the flip, cards you own lose Blood Debt. While this is in your inventory, when Blood Debt reduces your life to 13. You may transform into Blasphemate, Levia Consumed. Once each turn, you may play a card play a card with Blood Debt from your banish zone. Whenever a card is put into your banish zone, turn it face down. If you would lose life from Blood Debt, instead banish the top card of your deck. Okay, so it just disallows your opponent from viewing your zone. I'm curious though, what's the point of using the redeem side? I guess the cards you own lose Blood Debt. And it has to be in your inventory, so you only get to choose one side to activate. Very interesting card. Very, let's try it and see how it goes type of mechanic. Curious to see what comes out of it. Piques my interest, at least. I don't know how I feel about rating it, or anything like that, saying if it will have value. Again, with a card like this, Widespread Destruction, it has to be one of the strongest M's in the set. Obviously, in value-wise, because it's only for Shadow Runeblade, I don't know, but it does seem bonkers. Okay, then we have the common set of armor, Shroud of Darkness. If your hero would be dealt damage, you may banish this to prevent 2 of that damage. And it's Blood Debt. It's only for Shadow, so it's a big downside. Otherwise, it's a strong effect. It competes out with the other prevent damage set of armor, right? So you might see a few of these pieces, but overall, it's just filler, right? If it was for drafting, it would be better. Set's not draftable. Don't need to go over it again. Dabble in Darkness. When this attacks, banish the top card of your deck. This gets X, where X is the pitch value of the card banished this way. 0 for 5, up to, well, so it's either 0 for 2, 3, or 4. Unless you hit, what cards don't have pitch? There's a few cards that don't have pitch. Items? Yes, that's what I'm thinking of, right? I do like the art, though. Looks neat. This one looks great too. This in foil will be awesome. Chains of Mephites. Mephitis? Yeah, no. You may play this from your banish zone. If you do, it enters the arena with a Doom counter. Start of your turn, destroy this unless you remove a Doom counter from it. If a hero would draw a card during an action phase, instead they banish the top card of the deck and you may play it this turn. With a Doom counter. So it only lasts 1 turn, right? So it's pretty decent disruption. Dimensional Vortex. You may play this from your banish zone. If you do, it costs 2 less to play. Great. Each hero banishes a card from their arsenal. More CNC competition. Well, I guess Shadow is getting some love, right? You can just deck tech this in. It's easier to get off than CNC, because again, you don't have to meet its qualities to destroy or banish a card from your opponent's arsenal. So, it seems really good. Hungering Demagon. If an opposing hero has 1 or more card in their soul, you may play this from your banish zone. When this hits, banish a card from their soul. Again, it has the 6. I mean, why would you not just play Dimensional Vortex or I already forgot Widespread Destruction, right? In Runeblade. This card, it's our first counterspell sort of card, right? Like you just play it and they lose their arsenal card. Obviously, can't veto combat chain cards, but it's still very interesting to see. So this and Widespread Destruction. This is definitely going to see a bit more value because it's obviously applicable to all Shadow heroes. Curious card. Grim Feast. You may play this from your banish zone. If you do, it costs 2 less to play. Gain 3 life. Anything else? No, does no damage. It's just a gain life. Right, 1 for 3 in your banish zone. So use it to enable, like Levia, for instance, and your Hydra, and just gain life from it. Yeah. 3 life's nice, especially in Blitz. Vile Inquisition. Do these increase? No, they go down to 1. Vile Inquisition. You may place from your blah blah blah. Target banish top of the card. If it's red, they lose 1. If it's yellow, and then if it's blue, yeah. Very niche cards. Don't think they have enough versatility to see play. Soul Butcher. If the defending hero has 1 or more cards in their soul, this gains +2. 2 for 8, possibly. But again, you need the matchup. Soul Cleaver, I'm assuming you need the matchup too. Yeah, gains go again. Banish Zone, it gains +3 until the end of turn. That's decent, right? Just a 0 +3. Anything else interesting? Choose a red card, gains go again. Yellow, Very niche. Again, the commons just seem like a miss to me. And then this is just a Marvel card. Right, so it's the 8 Angels, Nazareth, and Levia. Levia, the other Marvel. Does it have a Marvel called Extended Art? I assume the Extended Art is. Oh, yes. Yeah. This is the black border. What about the flip side? Having these hero cards, given the prerequisites for heroes, doesn't seem too grand to me. Flip side, view, is just darkened. Give it a second to load. Yeah, it's just darkened. Seems like a waste of the Marvel slot, to be honest. But I mean, you have this wall of text, so there's nothing they could really do with it. I mean, you could have the tentacles come out. That could have been cool. Still, a strong card. I think it's just a waste of the Marvel slot. I think it's the same issue with the Dynasty Marvels that I have. Anyway, that is the Shadow cards, more or less. And we haven't really touched on short printings. I mean, it's just because equipment isn't as necessary. Oh, cool. Another hero short printed. Again, please, for the love of God, have the other versions. Just make them not listed. Otherwise, these are just... There's no point. The set should have been draftable. Anyway, on to the light cards next time. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.